Okay, without further ado, I am super excited to introduce you to Chelsey Paulson, who's the Chief Strategy Officer at Keystone Group International. Chelsey will give you a little bit more insight on Keystone Group, but they're this amazing organization that drives organizational impact at the human level, which is so important. So Chelsey is going to talk us through the presentation that she's bringing us through today is entitled Impact at the Intersection of Business and Human Needs. I absolutely love Chelsey, Keystone Group, everything they bring to the table, because they really do bring the business discipline and the human needs together, which is so important. So without further ado, Chelsey, I'm going to stop sharing and hand the virtual baton to you.
All right. Thank you so much, Meg. And it's so good to see so many familiar faces on here. I didn't know who all would be showing up, and I see a lot of names that I know. So this is really fun. I'm really looking forward to this quick conversation with you guys and just kind of teeing up and helping you think about this intersection of business needs and human needs, like Meg said. I'll talk a little bit about my background and how I got to where I'm at, but what I really want today to be about is to help you think a little bit differently about your businesses, and just the whole concept around what got us here is not going to get us there. So how do we continually keep innovating and changing and adapting and growing every day as leaders, as teams, as businesses, so that we can ultimately make the biggest impact that we can on the world, which is really what our focus is on. Is we have a deep understanding of business operating systems. We've all been in either EOS world or Pinnacle world or any of those operating systems that exist out there. Which we believe deeply in, as obviously all of you do as well, that we need that foundational aspect to our business. But then what do we do? What do we do next? What's that next layer? And what our belief is, and what we have seen in all of our clients, is that it is leadership. It is the leaders that will drive the business forward, that will make the impact that needs to happen. It's our leaders that connect individually with each of the humans in our businesses. And they are really what we need to take that business to the next level. So what our focus is how can we come and wrap around what you're already doing, the framework that you're already using in your business? How can we come and wrap around that and help take it to the next level by leveling up our leaders, leveling up our teams, and leveling up our culture? So again, my background is I come from a company called North Country Business Products, and we are still an employee-owned organization. And I was at the company for about 15 years, leading the HR department. And many times I was told, you're not the traditional HR leader. And I didn't know what that meant exactly until I started thinking about that a little deeper. And, what are my passion areas and what do I love doing? And it wasn't the traditional compliance, legal, employee relations, 401k benefits, right? That was not my jam. My jam was the communication, the culture, the leadership growth and development, pulling all the pieces together and making sure that we were aligned from our business strategy and our people strategy, and making sure we're moving forward together. And so when I came across Keystone and Jamie Tates, who is our CEO and founder of Keystone, these are the three things that we do. We help businesses figure out, what is your business strategy? Where are you going as a company? What is your business culture? And where are you going as a culture? And then how are we going to level up our leaders to make sure that they can oversee our business strategy and our culture strategy? And then, of course, I have to talk to my three little kids. They were amazing. We're a big hockey family. We live in Minnesota and have a pond right by our house. And so we spend a lot of time on the hockey rink all year round. So that's a little bit about my background. So what I want to help you guys think about today is the old concept, this is not new, of how do we go from a good spot to a great spot. And all of us have good businesses, we have good cultures, we have good business operating systems, but how do we take it to the next level? And how do we continue that improvement as we go throughout the quarters, the years, and the decades, really? And so I think it's important to understand the strategy aspect, the culture aspect, and leadership aspect. So I'm going to touch just quickly on each of those. We all know that from a business standpoint, that it can feel very chaotic in our businesses, which is exactly why we've implemented some sort, or we help businesses implement some sort of a business operating system so that we can all be pointing in the same direction and going the same way. We all know that this is important. I don't need to rehash this at all, but this is, I'm assuming we all have this business framework, this operating system that we're running off of, whether it's highly functioning or we're just getting started, might be another conversation, but we all have this basic framework. That's what I'm operating off of. However, we continue to hit the ceiling in some way, shape, or form. What I have seen with our clients that we work with is it generally is with our leaders that we are hitting the ceiling. And we talk a lot about that leadership growth is company growth. And so how do we get there, and how do we get to that next level? How do we continue our growth as we go throughout the years and not be hitting our heads against that ceiling day after day after day? So one of the ways that we look at this, and again, this is after years of working with clients and really helping to implement operating systems and get these things underway, what we've seen is that is the first step. The first step of your business maturity is we need to have this operating system, this framework to run our business off of, so that we can get execution, so we can get focus, so we can get alignment, really from a leadership team. But then after that, how do we get this to expand within the organization? How do we have an enterprise mindset? How do we have all of our leaders, not just a leadership team, but all of the leaders on the same page and really driving this through to the rest of the organization, and what I call adding a chapter. So each leader is responsible to add a chapter for their team. So if the leadership team is writing that first chapter of the book and saying, here's our vision, here's our purpose, here's our core values, here's where we're going in 5 years, 3 years, 1 year, this next quarter, that's great. We need to do that. But then each of those leaders needs to take it to their team and add that chapter to their team so that they understand it and that they understand how they're going to impact this whole goal and vision and mission that we have as an organization. And so we need to make sure that each leader is adding a chapter, and it gets further and further down in the organization. And the larger the organizations are that we're in or that we're working with, the more difficult that is to do. And so this is where we start to see things really kind of go astray and not have the impact that we're hoping for it to have. And this is a human side, right? We have that business framework in place, but how do we get all the humans involved and engaged so that they feel like they're being optimized, like they're being empowered to really take the business to the next level? So it's these 3 different stages that we're looking at, and how can we come in and, like I said, wrap around what you're already doing and build on top of that to really take it to the next level. So one of the things that we really like to focus on is the flywheel of your business, right? What is the business operating model? What is your business strategy to help you understand where are we strong, where are we weak, and how do we continue to add success to our business and not recreate the wheel every time? So this is our flywheel that I included up here. I'm not going to go through this in depth. It's just that concept of what are those key components. And this is a Jim Collins concept. This is certainly not our own concept. But what is that flywheel that you need to have for your business? And does everyone understand that? And then how do we take that to the next level? We have our business flywheel, but then can we create a flywheel for our sales team, for our operations team, for our engineering team, right? Whatever team it is that we need to make sure we have a consistent structure and strategy for how we successfully operate in each of those areas. And again, this is another way that we can find how can we as humans connect to what we're doing as a business and analyze where we're successful and where we're struggling and continuing to build on this year after year. The other concept that I think is really important for business leaders to think about and how we can connect the humans to what we're doing is having this big picture thinking, the 10X mentality. There's a lot of books written out there about that 10X vision, 10X thinking, and thinking about that versus 2X thinking. When we think about 2X thinking, we're really just thinking about how can we do more of what we're already doing. So you're just going to work harder and maybe make a little bit of progress. But if we're thinking 10X, we're reimagining what could be. And this doesn't mean we're 10Xing our revenue necessarily. It doesn't mean that this is a 10-year plan. It just is a thought process to get us to think bigger and broader than just incrementally moving forward. And so if we can have these bigger visions for our organizations and where we're going, that helps people see that there's a future here. And I'm not going to be stuck being this, admin or this accounting assistant or, whatever it is for the rest of my life. There's opportunity here. There's growth here. This company has a vision and I want to be a part of it. So that 10x thinking and really painting that picture for our employees is really going to help connect them to the business. But again, it really comes back to the leaders, which is really what I feel is the linchpin between all of this is, as a leadership team, we need to understand what does our business need. But then as leaders, each and every leader has to understand what are the human needs in our business. And if we can't connect those two, we're never going to have that high impact culture, that high impact business that we're looking for. And so leaders truly are the linchpin that moves all of this forward. And this is not rocket science, right? We all know that leaders are important, but I don't think leaders understand how important they are to the success of your business, to the success of the people in our businesses. At least that's what we have seen. And we do assessments within organizations, and we do focus groups and have all these conversations with the employees. And what we continue to find is that the leaders are not at the level that we need them to be. And more often than not, that's our fault as the leaders of the organization, of the highest level of the organization. We're often not setting expectations for those leaders. What does that mean to be a successful leader in our organization? What are the leadership competencies that we require in our organization? And then holding the leaders accountable and enabling them to grow and develop into the leaders that we expect them to be. So there is a gap here that I really believe needs to be filled so that we can help with our retention issues that we might be having, help with our recruiting issues that we might be having, help with our growth issues we might be having, helping us accomplish the goals that we're trying to accomplish. So I really think that the leaders in our organizations need to be evaluated, but we first need to step back and say, but what do we even expect of them? Have we clearly defined to them what their roles and accountabilities are, not on job description, not on an accountability chart, but as a leader of people, what do we expect of our leaders? And one of the reasons why this is so important is that our relationship, each and every one of our relationship with work has changed dramatically. Over the last 3-4 years since the pandemic, what we have really seen is this need and this expectation that our work environments, our employers are going to provide for us more than just a job. They are providing us also this, helping us figure out what is that work-life integration. And I never like to say work-life balance because it's never actually balanced. It's more like a teeter-totter. And so what's that work-life integration that we need to have so that we aren't seeing people leave? The great resignation that is happening, it's often because people aren't feeling connected to the business. They don't understand the purpose, or they don't feel connected to the purpose of the business. They don't feel like the company's values align with theirs, or they don't feel like their leader is impactful and empowering and helping them grow and develop as a human being and also as an employee of the organization. So our expectations with work have continued to change. And I think they're going to continue to change as we move forward as well. But I don't know if our leaders are really understanding that it's their role to manage that relationship with each of their employees and their relationship to work. So I think it's important that we all have a idea when we say culture. What does culture mean? What is our definition of culture? And the way that we've defined this at Keystone is very simplistic. Culture is a way that we think, act, and interact. And when I say we, it is every single person. It is not just the CEO. It is not just the leadership team. It is every single person in the organization that needs to own culture, right? The leaders absolutely set the stage, but everyone needs to take an active role in helping to build and grow the culture and to be a part of the culture. And so a deeper way to look at this is, how do we feel within our organizations? How do we behave within our organization? And do we have a shared set of beliefs in our organization? So what I want you guys to think about is these different stages of culture and maybe where your company is at, or the clients that you work with, what stage of culture are they in? because this is going to be a huge impact on the business. And this is where that intersection of what do our people need and what do our business need, these stages of culture can help to bridge that gap. So the very first stage of conscious culture is inconsistent. So this is the we don't really get it stage. Our leaders are very inconsistent with how they behave, with how they interact with the employees. We maybe have core values, but we're not holding everyone accountable to them. We maybe have employee reviews, but we're not very consistent with them. We're not consistent about who we promote or how we recognize people. There's a lot of inconsistencies with our culture. If you were to go around and ask people, what are 3 words to describe your culture? Or what is our culture vision or culture statement? Everyone would have a very, very different answer in stage 1. Stage 2 is we're informed. We're curious about culture. We want to learn more about it. We're maybe listening to podcasts. We're reading books about it. We're trying to gain some information on what culture is and what our culture is, but we don't really know what to do with that information, but we're curious and we know that it's important. The next stage is the intentional stage and kind of the we got it stage. So we've done some sort of an assessment, some sort of culture assessment to get a real understanding of where we're at. And just like we do with our business, we've created a strategy around our culture. What is our vision for our culture? What we call our culture compass, right? Where are we heading with our culture and how are we going to get there? Where's our 3-year plan, our 1-year plan, our quarterly rocks that we're going to set for our culture and for our people, but also making sure that that intersects with our business strategy and is in support of our business strategy and not 2 separate siloed strategies. Otherwise, that integration, that high impact is not going to happen. Then the last stage is the iterative improvement stage. So this is the, again, what got us here won't get us there. Is how do we continuously improve, continuously check in and revamp and tweak as we add people to the company, as we make an acquisition, as leaders change, certainly as the CEO or the ownership changes in the organization, our culture is going to change along with that. And we need to step back and reflect and reiterate what is our plan, what is our vision for our culture. And so again, thinking about where are you at in this stage of culture, or the clients that you work with, where are they at? And how can we get to that next level? And one of the most important things that I think we need to do is set a culture compass. And so the whole purpose of doing this is to know where are we going as a company and how are we going to get there? And then this can be this culture compass, this culture statement that you can create becomes a recruiting tool. So when the candidates inevitably ask the question, tell me about the culture at your company, you can clearly state, this is who we are, this is where we're going, and this is how we're going to get there. And this is how you could be a part of this if you join our organization. So we always want to base this around our core values, around our purpose, and then of course, what our employees want. We talk a lot about a cultural contribution versus a cultural fit when we're hiring employees. If we're just looking for cultural fit, we get into that groupthink mentality. We're just adding more of what's already there. But if we think, how can this person contribute and add to our culture? That's really what we want. And so as we're thinking about our employees, thinking about who our current employees are and who are our ideal employees, and how would we create this culture compass, this culture vision for that group of people. And I sent Jenna a document or a worksheet that can help you think through this for your own organization, or if you wanted to work on this with your clients, just some steps to think through how you would come up with this culture compass, and then what would you do with it after that. And then just to kind of close out here, so this is our impact model that we created as an organization. As we were helping our clients implement business operating systems, it inevitably kept coming up, culture, culture, culture. We need help with culture. We're having issues with culture, but no one knew where to start or how to fix it. And so we came up with our own model of all of the elements that we believe impact your business, both from a human perspective and from a business perspective. And so you'll see on the bottom of this is conscious leadership. And this is, as I had said, very, very important that we understand where our leaders are at, what our expectations are of our leaders, and make sure that we're enabling them and helping them be successful so that our companies can be successful. I had talked a little bit in the very beginning about the concept of the law of the lid. And so this comes out of John Maxwell's book, 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership. And this is my favorite law that he has in there. And it's the law of the lid, which I'm sure a lot of you have seen this or read this. But the concept is that leaders are the lid of their teams and of the organization. So if you're rating a leader on a scale of 1 to 10, and they're a 5, then their team, their organization can only be a 3 or a 4. But if we can level up the leader's abilities to a 7 or an 8, then we can level up the team to a 6 or a 7. And this goes for the leadership team as well. If collectively the leadership team is at a 6, the company will never be able to rise above that. So again, what got us here is not going to get us there. And so how can we continue to level up our leaders every year, and again, set those expectations of what it means to be a leader in our organization so we can continue leveling up our people. This alignment between the head and the heart is very, very important. This is the emotional intelligence, psychological safety. It is said that there's 18 inches between your head and your heart. However, for a lot of leaders out there, it seems like they're not actually connected at all, and they're two totally separate human beings. And so as leaders, we need to really realize that this emotional intelligence isn't a nice to have skill, it is a necessity. And there has to be that element of, it's almost like looking at it as leadership and management, right? With your brain, that's your management side of what you need to do. It's the tactical things, it's the metrics, it's the goals you're trying to hit, right? It's the policies that need to be followed, the processes that need to be followed. But then on the other side is the heart, and it's the leadership side, the human side of being a leader. And really understanding that it is our job to have this high level of self-awareness of how do we think, act, and interact as leaders? We need to do that. That's what drives our culture, and that's what's going to motivate our people. So how do we think, act, and interact within our organizations? But then as a leader, how do I come across? Having that self-awareness of how I think, how I act, and how I interact, how does that come across to people? There's a book that I love called The 5 Voices, and it's about how there's 5 different voices that exist. Everyone has a foundational voice, and it talks about understanding what your voice is and what's it like to be on the other side of your voice. So if you're having a conversation with you, or an argument or a debate with you, what's it like to be on the other side? And that's a lot of what I think emotional intelligence is about, is having that understanding, that self-awareness of what it might be to be on the other side of a conversation with you. And I think taking any type of assessments, there's hundreds of assessments out there on leadership, on personality assessments, on strengths, on any of these things. I think they're all great. I'm an assessment junkie, and I think every one of these assessments just gives us a few little data points of who we are as a human being and can help us become better leaders. I think engaging in those assessments is one really great way to become more self-aware and have that self-awareness for our emotional intelligence and that alignment between our head and our heart. The other thing that I think leaders need to do more of is asking their people for feedback. How am I doing as a leader, right? We're always, as leaders, told that we need to help our people understand where they need to grow and develop. But we as leaders also need to grow and develop because we are the lid of our team. And so we need to be asking the people that report to us, what do I need to do to improve? How can I make your job easier? And if that's not part of our one-on-one conversations, if we're not doing that on a quarterly, annual basis, that's something we certainly need to add into the mix to make sure that we understand what is it that our humans need in our business. And if we're not asking them what they need, it's kind of hard to make assumptions. And usually when we make assumptions, we are incorrect. And so really utilizing, again, the head and the heart to have those conversations and dig in and ask our people what they need and what their expectations are of us and of us as an employer. As I said, our relationship with work has drastically changed. And so really making sure that we're in alignment with that is very important. And so I think it's really important as leaders that we, sometimes think about our teams as maybe a cast of the Muppet Crew. And how can we take that cast of the Muppet Crew and change them into these superheroes, and understanding what their purpose is, what drives them, what motivates them, and making them successful and helping them get to that next level that they want to get to. So again, really focusing on had that great foundation. How do we wrap around that? How do we build up to that next level? And a lot of it revolves around our leadership team, self-awareness and understanding. How do we get our leaders to the next level so we can get our people to the next level? And the only way to really get there is to ask and understand where are we at today and where are we going? And I think the very first step of that is that culture compass that, again, Jenna will be sending out afterwards. Another thing, two resources for you. We did write a book, The Culture Climb, coming out in June. It talks a lot about this and leadership growth and leadership development and how do we continue to level up our organizations and level up our leaders. And then also we have a business impact assessment. Again, Jenna will be sending this link out. And so this is just another free resource for you to help get a baseline of where we at as far as how we are impacting our business and impacting our humans. And so you can either scan the QR code or, again, Jenna will be sending out the link to that as well. So with that, I'd like to thank you so much for your time today. I think I ended right on time there, Meg. So hopefully I stayed on track for us.
Oh my gosh, Chelsey, thank you so much. I took so many notes. I have so many good nuggets. I am a huge believer culture is everything, but I love setting a culture compass. And I love how you were talking through cultural contribution versus fit. I am changing that story when I talk through it. It makes so much more sense. And we talk through that, but the fit piece of it, that doesn't tell the whole story. So thank you so much. This is so impactful, so awesome. And like I said, you guys, Chelsey is this amazing in Keystone Group, bringing business and human needs together and creating that true engagement that helps companies get to that next level. I love it. So thanks.